going on, guys? This is the Wisdom Matrix, and in this video I'm going to try and explain something that I figured out today. I just figured out, not but 5 or 10 minutes ago. And you could call this like the flaw in the matrix, or the flaw in the ego. Basically, why the ego keeps doing what it's doing. Why it keeps, doing the same low consciousness things, Basically what this means is that whenever it tries to do something, it does it from a place of a lack of awareness. It tries to create a state of lack of awareness by thinking a whole lot, or just getting lost in some form of something that you're doing. That'd be like music or television or whatever it might be. And the reason why it's doing this is because is because it doesn't want you to look at it. Because if you look at it long enough, you'll see a flaw in the programming of the ego. A huge flaw. And this flaw has to do with the fact that its basic nature is to keep itself going by... Okay, let me try and simplify it. Basically, what's happened is that your ego, it says, things like, I want to be happy, or whatever, or you're saying that, or whatever, and the ego, to try and get this happiness, will go in pursuit of low consciousness things like not being aware, or watching reality television, or whatever it might be. Anything that keeps it unaware. Because awareness is what wakes you up to what it is. And basically what it is trying to ignore or avoid what it really is. Because what it really is what it's doing is actually keeping the suffering and all this stuff going because of the lack of awareness. The more aware you become, the less suffering you get. And the less suffering you get, the less the ego controls your life. Because the ego is more or less just pure need and suffering. There's more there, but like in its basic essence, it's not the basic essence, but the way that the ego works is, it has needs when it suffers, because it identifies itself with as the concept identifies itself as itself, and when it's threatened, which it will inevitably be, it suffers, and it gets angry and gets all this stuff. And this is why it's important to observe what's going on in your mind, your thoughts, your emotions, because it will start to make you more aware. Observe your awareness as well. It'll start to awaken you and make you more aware. The more awareness you have, the less these things will affect you, the less the ego will control you. And the less aware you are, the more you listen to the ego and try to just live without awareness, which is what the ego is pretty much. Without awareness, it's aware, but It's a very low consciousness version of awareness. Whenever it is aware, usually its awareness is very limited and stuff like that because it's not awareness itself. It's tied up with awareness, so it thinks that it is real, but it's basically a way to the suffering is caused because of this lack of awareness, because it believes that by doing these things, it can stop the suffering. It hopes that can control its own reality, and it can prevent suffering and anger, and it can. Well, we can, but the only way to do that is to become aware, and become aware of the thing that's actually causing this. The only thing that's causing this is the ego. That's why everything seems so difficult, because most of the time we're not aware of what's going on in our minds or outside of ourselves or whatever. It may be difficult to, observe the mind, because you may get, start feeling like you are the mind again. So you can just observe your breathing or something like that, something outside of yourself. It'll build awareness. The more aware you are, the less these things will start to affect you, the actual you, the awareness you, and the ego you, to some extent. Yeah, another thing to notice is that just notice what's happening in your mind or your thoughts, and to notice whenever you start to get angry or annoyed or whatever, try not to become that anger, because a lot of times why this cycle keeps repeating itself is because you become this anger or this suffering or whatever it is instead of observing it. So try to just observe it. You can become it for a second. Notice what that does. Does that increase your awareness or decrease it? If it decreases it, become aware of it again. Because this becoming, the suffering or the anger, from what I've noticed, it actually decreases your awareness, and it actually, increases identification with the ego, and this idea of, I want to try and end the suffering in this certain way, and a certain way leads to more suffering, because you identify with this self or the ego or whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it, it identifies again. This is true even when you're, happy or whatever. Your ego is still operating. There's an attachment. Try and find this attachment of the ego going, thinking or feeling to itself, yay, I'm happy. Noticing this attachment and letting go of it, it helps to, calm this stuff down too. There was a video that was released a week ago, a couple days ago, something like that, called, I forget what it was called, but I'll try and put it in this description when I find it. But power of letting go. Basically, you just observe what basically you you notice something, an emotion, a thought, a desire to itch part of your body, or desire to do something to your body, or something like that, any kind of thing like that, and just let that go for a couple seconds or a minute or whatever. This calms the mind too, brings more awareness, and you can even let go of the desire to become aware for a minute or two. And this, all these things are useful and helpful, because the ego, the ego is like a snake that spirals downwards and downwards and downwards, and there's a whole bunch of coils, and you believe that you are stuck within these coils, but you aren't. Your awareness can unravel from these coils because it's it's made out of something that can't be stopped or kept in one place for very long without it can, but once it becomes aware, it can move a little easier and whatnot. And if you look at this coiled snake, look to the very bottom, you'll notice that there's a very last coil, and you'll just start to unravel this very snake, or whatever you want to call it, or you can call it like something, just something that you're unraveling. Doing this is unraveling the ego. It's unraveling the attachments that keeps the ego going. Basically, attachment is what keeps the ego going. There's more that could be said about that, but I'll just leave it for now. Later on, I'm gonna make a video about are concepts important, because they can be sometimes. So, the importance is to not just not to become attached to those concepts, though. That's the important part as well. But that's going to be in another video. So, this is the Wisdom Matrix. If you like this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe. Excuse me. And if you want to find that video, I think you can search for it by searching like The Power of Letting Go or something like that. I'll try and find the link and put it in the description, because it is a good video, and it explains things pretty well when it comes to, how to let go and stuff like that. So anyways, this is the Wisdom Matrix, and I'll see you on the next video.